Alright, crafting video for Shockwave Totem Warbringer. I'm going to cover how to make the items that I've made on my guy, or very similar items to what I've made or purchased. Kind of the best ways that I've seen to make them, using a lot of the very deterministic stuff we have access to this league. I'm going to try to do some of them as I go while I explain. I have a lot of the currency here ready, because it is mostly a step-by-step process where you kind of know what's happening next. Some item slots on this build in particular are better to just kind of purchase either a fully completed item or like close to completed, because they're just not really cost efficient to craft. But I'll go over some of the options on those anyway. But for the most part, mainly focusing on the ones that you kind of do need to craft, because either the options to buy don't really exist on the market, or they're just way more expensive than trying to make it yourself. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna start with the boots, which is basically similar to the gloves. They're like a very much the same thing. You get double socket base and you get increased socket effect and then other stats. So I'm just gonna do boots. Gloves basically follows the same more or less idea. But basically I have a pair of 2 socket boots. These ones I did a little bit of prep on. They have fractured life. I can do fractured life or fractured strength. So basically, just get a pair of 2 socket boots. If you can just buy a pair of 2 socket boots with tier 1 life or tier 1 strength outright, that's great. You know, hopefully it has 4 mods or less. You don't want more than 4 mods. If it has more, you're probably going to have to annul it down to 4 to up your fracture odds. But either way, get a fractured base, and then you're ready to go. So, first step after fracturing was to annul it down to 1 mod plus the fracture. And then from this point, you're just spamming Chaos Orbs, which I think Chaos Orbs have gotten quite cheap. They're like practically 1x alt. Yeah. Um, so I am spamming Chaos Orbs. Since I got life here, I am looking for strength on the Chaos Orb. And if I had strength on the fracture, I would be looking for life. This can take a bit of time, a bit of chaos, but again, fortunately, they're not too expensive. Grab some more. Keep going. You could go all the way for just tier 1. I'll probably take a lower tier as well here just to proceed onwards. Hopefully fine. Okay, there's a strength roll. Not good enough though. 30 movement speed. This looks good. Could be tempted by it, but we actually don't care about this because we're going to guarantee a movement speed roll later, whereas the strength roll is not as easily guaranteed, especially not at the high tier that we want it to be. Just going to keep going, keep going, keep going. Hopefully you can find a strength roll quicker than I am. Might have to actually buy some more Chaos Orbs at this rate. There we go. Tier 1. Perfect. Lovely. Okay. We're good to go. So now we have strength. Since my life roll is the fracture, it's a prefix. The next couple steps are basically going to involve adding a prefix and then deleting said prefix, and it's safe to do because the random prefix we add is the only thing that can get removed. If I had strength fracture, it would be the same steps, kind of, but reversed around, where you're playing it off the suffix since that's the safe side. But so I'm going to exalt a prefix, just a regular exalt, guarantee prefix. Click that. Doesn't matter what it is. We do not care what hit here. And then I'm going to use a sinistral crystallization omen, which means the essence will only remove a prefix, which is going to remove that thing we just added. And we are going to add our suffix. Again, if we had the other fracture, these would be reversed. I would have added a suffix. This would have said prefix, and I actually would have done the other essence first because it's a prefix. But, so we're going to do this. It's going to make us get rid of that prefix. It's going to add our plus 100% socketed items. And then again, YOLO slam, just a random prefix. Doesn't matter. Okay, this one doesn't really matter what it is still, but if I hit like 30 movement speed here, that would be really funny, because that's what we're going to put on this item next. We did not. Okay. And then again, same thing. Remove only prefix essence. This one now guarantees our movement speed. And now we have all our core modifiers. We are more or less done. The last step would basically be guarantee a desecrate suffix, desecrate the item, activate a omen of abyssal echo so we can reroll this unveil, and then go see what we get. You could use the higher tier unveil currency thing. I just don't really care that much about it. It's maybe worth it in this case specifically to have used the higher tier rib. They're very, very expensive though. This one's already good though. I would just take this. Hybrid Chaos Res I really like. Now suffixes are done. And then the last prefix barely matters. There's not that much, like you're gonna get a little bit of armor, probably. It's not worth enough to like try to do anything with. There's no hybrid life rolls on boots. So we're just gonna YOLO it. And we hit 100% armor. There you go. Nice boots. Very good. Love it. That's the boots. They are done. Gloves is basically you do the same process. The main difference would be instead of going for movement speed, you're kind of going for hybrid life, I guess. Or double armor rolls. Doesn't really matter. You can force hybrid life, so it's probably that one. Basically, where you put movement speed on previously, you would instead use a homogeneous prefix exalt and exalt hybrid life. And then you would follow that, you could at least follow that with another homogeneous prefix exalt, because once you have hybrid life, you now have the defense tag, and that would let you do an armor roll guaranteed as well. Or you could try to hit a flat damage to do that. More or less same process on the gloves. Next up, I've got an amulet. So my amulet is double life rolls with spirit, and then all attributes, strength, and a res. You can technically say a better amulet would have like +3 to melee skills. +3 to melee skills with all the other things we need, because we need the spirit, we need the all attributes. They kind of make things really complicated, needing both of those. +3, for me specifically, would mean giving up a suffix. I'm using every suffix on every item, so it'd be hard to give up anyway. Like, I could maybe get rid of one strength roll and try to find some strength elsewhere. Either way, and strength, or the +3 doesn't even add that much, so I'm not too worried about it. Just go like this. And this one's already like kind of tough to make, but it's like somewhat reliable. So starting with a magic base with spirit and all attributes, just buy these. Again, if you're SSF, anything where I show a magic item and say like buy this magic item, obviously you can't buy it if you're SSF. So these would be things that you're just picking up off the ground as like a normal rarity amulet, for example. And it doesn't have to be this stellar amulet base, just any base with a useful implicit life, strength, all attributes. Maybe mostly those three. But those are the kind of thing you're picking up the normal bases and using your like greater or perfect transmutes and augments on to try to find. But so the first parts of this are pretty straightforward. We are just gonna basically settle for a lower tier life roll that we can guarantee with an essence. And then this immediately lets us follow up with a homogeneous exalt to force another life roll, percentage life, like that. Now from here, it still is tricky to finish this unless we can fracture all attributes. If we can fracture all attributes, we have a really good way into the end. And this one's already like spent a bit of currency, right, with that homogeneous exalt. The base isn't too expensive to buy. The homogeneous exalt eats some costs. If we're lucky, we hit the all attributes. We're not lucky, we did not hit the all attributes. So at this point, like, you're gonna kind of just YOLO some stuff, and there's a chance you brick. Realistically, you could do a little bit of the YOLO and then just restart before even like doing anything more expensive from here, because the chances of hitting correctly is going to be pretty tough. But like, you could just homogenize exalt right now, but because the next thing we really need is strength. Problem with that is you have life rolls on your item now, which means you could hit life regen suffix. Also, the attributes could make you hit dex or int, which are both bad. Don't really like any of that, so I'm just going to instead use a random greater exalt, just YOLO it. Hopefully we hit something good. We did not. So at this point, you could literally just restart. Or you can go for a 50-50. That's like pretty cursed, which I'm just going to click it just to show. We're going to use a dextral crystallization to remove a suffix. And hope that we don't kill our... One, hope we don't kill our all attributes. And two, we hope that this adds strength, because again, this is going to add strength, dex, or int. So we'll see how that goes. It added dex. That's not what we want, right? So realistically, you could go again, try again, do the same thing, whatever. If you hit your mod that you did want, then you would follow it up with the unveil, and then you would go check your unveil mod, and you would, if you had all the rest of your mods, you would be using like Abyssal Echoes and Omen of Light until you hit like a properly good unveil here. But again, realistically, you probably have to do that first step until you get the Fractured All attributes. Otherwise, you're probably not going to hit. I actually got really lucky on mine. I exalted the lightning res, and then I got the strength really quickly. You don't really want to be spending Omen of Lights fishing for a strength unveil because it's just too expensive to do that now, I think. But you can use Omen of Light to fish for like a resist unveil since there's multiple ones that you can use. Yeah, so that's the amulet. Amulet's tough. A little bit RNG, not completely deterministic. Next up is a weapon. So if you want a really just high fizz DPS weapon, that's what I currently have. I don't think there's that great of a way to make these. It's just, it comes down to a lot of RNG, like really high flat heat, really high percent. Once you have prefixes, the suffixes are very straightforward, which you're going to see in this process. But getting those like super crazy fizz prefixes, those are really hard still. But you can get pretty good. You can get pretty good for very reliable and not too much cost. So I'm going to show that right here. So I have a weapon. You can either just get a magic weapon with percent fizz, like tier 1 or tier 2, and then use the Essence of Abrasion, Greater Essence, to get tier 3 flat, which is what this has. Or this one, I just bought this. I looked for any weapons, any massive great hammers that had these two mods and an open prefix. And this thing, to buy this was actually quite a bit cheaper than buying a magic base with just the percent fizz, which was great because it already had what I wanted. This does have one extra suffix on it compared to what I would want this to have. I really wouldn't want an extra suffix, but it doesn't matter because it'll just change a little bit of a step later on. But since it has an open prefix, what we can do, dextral crystallization, this essence will only remove suffixes. And then we are going to use perfect essence of abrasion for some gain as physical damage. Now you could also, if this didn't have an unveiled mod, you could unveil for your last prefix and get +1 totem, which is a really good mod too. But the reason we're doing it this way is we're going to save that unveil for the suffixes so that we can try to fish for a reduced attributes unveil, since that's really good for Giant's Blood earlier on until you have crazy amounts of strength. Or if you don't need it and you have enough strength, you could fish for attack speed. We're going to click this. It's going to delete a suffix. We have now a big gain as fizz mod. All our prefixes are done. So now what we need to do, I want to add some more essence mods. There's a little bit of RNG here, but you can never really fully fail. You can just lose some currency on it. So you'll see I'm just going to add one more suffix. I don't want to add full suffixes because we want to be able to have that one suffix open later on in order to add our veiled mod back, which this one still has it, but hopefully we're going to delete it pretty soon here. And then we're going to use some guaranteed suffix removal essences. First with a haste essence, which is going to make our weapon gain onslaught on kill. And then again, we're going to do it with now an essence of battle. And hopefully we don't delete our haste essence we just added. And we are going to get +6 to skills. Unfortunately, it looks like I did delete it, and I didn't get rid of the veiled mod yet, which is kind of tricky. Honestly, at this point, I would probably not necessarily try to get onslaught back like in Trade League. I would probably just sell this or use it as is or whatever. And if I would probably sell it and get a new base if I wanted to do that. But for the sake of showing this, I'm going to burn some currency so that I can show you guys the full process here. We need to dextral crystallization again.
I'll post it right
Grab
away.
one of these. Again, it's just a 50-50 here again. Hopefully we get rid of the correct mod. I also need a perfect essence of haste. Have any. These ones are cheap. This is why we did this one first, because if we delete it, it's not too much to try again. Okay, good. We got it. Now we are where we want to be, and our last mod is just adding a desecrated mod. Now again, you could, if you want to, I don't know how much these cost now. Yeah, these are really expensive. I personally, I don't know. I don't think I'd bother. They only make the minimum eye level 40. It's not that crazy. I would just send it like this. You can definitely get a abyssal echoes, because these are much cheaper.
I'll feel
But
better
you at
as
least
soon
get a
as I can.
reroll.
Hello again.
And then, depending on your needs, you would be hoping for anything useful here, but really, probably reduced attribute requirements or attack speed. We'll see what happens. None of these are any good. Click the reroll. Strength. Strength isn't bad. It's not as good as reduced attribute requirements, but it's not terrible, potentially, for you. I'll keep that for now. If I really needed something else, like if I really needed the reduced attributes, sure. Use Omen of Light, go again. You can use Omen of Lights and just keep going on this as much as you would want to. But, so this weapon, as it is now, let's see the DPS real quick. I think it's like just over 700. 533, 762, 712. But it has a gain extra as Fizz, which 27% gain as Fizz is probably in the neighborhood of 20% more DPS for this character. We don't have a ton of gaining as extra stuff. Right? So if you factor that in, it's pretty close to like 854 DPS. Let's say 850. So if I was to pull up trade, get a two-handed mace with 850 physical DPS and +6 melee. These things are being sold for 40 divines. Now, I spent a decent bit making this weapon, and it doesn't quite have this much DPS, but it may as well. But we didn't spend anywhere near 40 divines. Much, much cheaper. Much, much cheaper. And there's a chance that you hit a really sick suffix when you do your unveiling. So, that one's really good. Very good craft. Oh, I actually had these here ready for the weapon. I didn't need to buy them. That's fine. Okay, next up, I've got body armor, ring, belt, shield. So body armor and shield, you kind of want the same stats, and for both cases, they're not really that worth doing crazy crafts on unless you absolutely need to. Much better off just trying to buy items with all or most all of the stats and then maybe a tiny bit of finishing. But if you were to try to finish something, like a body armor here, for example, you would want to start with a base like this. Life and armor to Ellie. And then you kind of have to like just hit a regal and hope that you land on a strength roll. Well, you could try to force strength with an essence, but it could give dex or int. Well, this one might not be able to. These ones, either way, it doesn't give as much as you'd want. Realistically, you would like to hit a big strength roll or a percentage armor roll. I'm just gonna click this. We'll see what happens. I did hit an armor roll. So that's interesting. The way to go from here, if I needed to finish this base itself, would be to homogeneous exalt prefix. It'll give us another armor roll of some sort. And then follow that with a unveil. And then follow that with, I think, a YOLO exalt. You could homogeneous exalt suffix as well to try to get a res, because the armor applying to elemental damage does share tags with the Ellie res, but your life roll shares tags with life regen, so the homogeneous exalt might hit life regen. It's probably still worth it if you had to do it this way. But again, we're talking about multiple homogeneous exalts here. You can probably buy a chest most of the way there for the cost of those things anyway. Really, ideally, you would want to regal a big strength roll. If you hit a big strength roll, you can make a very good item. So if you have life, armor to Ellie, and strength, you can homogeneous double exalt on prefix. It'll get you 2 armor rolls. Now your prefixes are done. You have 1 suffix open. You unveil it. Shield, same process. Ring. I mean, a basic ring is pretty basic and easy. We're just gonna throw some things at it. Get a magic base with life and strength. Essence of resist. Unveil a suffix. You could do Abyssal Echoes here if you want to, but I mean at this point we haven't even invested 20x into this, so whatever, YOLO. Hopefully hit something cool like that. That's pretty cool. And then just double Exalt Greater Prefix. That one's actually pretty good. Fire damage roll. Not bad at all. Like decent ring, right? But you can also buy rings pretty easily. They're not very expensive. But if you had to make it, that's how you go about that. Belt is similar, except for on your belt you kind of want to get some armor as well, and you can't really have a good way to do that, unfortunately. But I think that's everything. We kind of covered it all. Yep, very cool. The crafting in this patch is extremely powerful. As you saw, there's a lot of really good things you can make. A little bit of RNG here and there on some spots, but for the most part, a lot of deterministic ways to do it. I hope the video is helpful. Kind of enjoyed just grabbing a bunch of items and doing them in game instead of just using like Craft of Exile or some other explanations. Burned a little currency, but honestly, if I sell these boots, I'll probably cover like all the other currency I threw away, which just goes to show how good it can be to craft stuff yourself on a lot of these pieces. Again, not all of them, but a lot of them. Like there's a lot of really good crafting that is very heavily marked up. You're better off just making them yourself. Yeah, that's all I got. Hope it was helpful. Hope you liked it. Thanks for watching, and see ya.